Hello, I'm Hugh Shelton. I'm the lead hero designer on Heroes of the Storm. In my position, I help our team pick out what heroes are coming down the pipe, and I'm one of the people that help design heroes for the game, coming up with their abilities and what they'll actually do in the Nexus.
So, Hugh, what have you announced here at BlizzCon with Heroes of the Storm?
So we announced Cho'Gall, we announced Lunara, we announced Greymane. These are all new heroes. We also announced Tracer as a new hero from Overwatch. On top of that, we showed off the Arena, a new game mode that it's going to be coming out in the future, not as soon as some of these other things that we showed off, but we also announced a new map, Towers of Doom.
Talk a little about Arena. What is that map mode exactly?
So Arena is kind of a way where we've combined some elements that we've seen in other Blizzard games. We kind of combined a little bit of Hearthstone Arena, where you can, when you go into this mode, you're going to have 3 heroes that you can select from that are all random, and then you choose which one of those 3 heroes that you want to play as. It's always in the same world, so you'll get 3 warriors to choose from or 3 assassins to choose from. On top of that, once you're in, now you're doing a battle inside of an arena that doesn't have any lanes. You're level 10, you get your heroic ability right away, and now you're just battling against the other team for some new objectives that we've come up with on these maps.
Now, is that more of like just a fun mode? Would there be like a ranked mode to that, or is that just a variation mode just for fun?
So we're still pretty early on with this mode, and actually having it at BlizzCon is going to be really useful to see how people respond to it and see how much they like it or see what kind of requests they have, because we don't really have a timeline for when we're going to release it, and so there's a lot of changes that we could make to it before it comes out.
So, wow, you guys announced 4 heroes at this. That's a lot of heroes. That's a lot of balance. It's a lot of number crunching. And you guys announced a hero, Cho'Gall, who actually is one hero controlled by 2 people. So kind of go into detail of how that idea came up and how you actually made it work in game.
So some of the most fun meetings we ever do are these meetings where we get together and we talk about what are the ways that we can break the rules of the genre altogether, and doing a character that one character where you have 3 heroes, or another character that has 2 heroes, like with Rexar or the Lost Vikings. That was one way that we were able to break the rules of the game. And Abathur and Murky are other ways that we found breaking rules. And coming up with the rule that, well, usually you have one character controlled by one player, and we decided, well, we just did Lost Vikings, maybe we could go the opposite direction.
So you're like the Morpheus of Heroes of the Storm, where you're like, some rules can be bent, others broken. So
Our design team is definitely like that, yes.
So talk a little about, the Dryad hero you guys announced, she's actually very different too. She moves a lot differently than any hero I've ever seen in a MOBA before. Talk a little detail about that.
Yeah, sure. So we really like the movement of the Dryad units in Warcraft 3, and so for Lunara, that was one of the first things that we talked about bringing over, was this sort of bounding movement, and we playtested a couple different iterations of it. We started off where it maybe wasn't something that was always on. Maybe it was only on some of the time. Maybe that was just the way that she mounted up and moved around. But as we played with it, we really liked what it did for gameplay. For example, if you're standing still as Lunara and then you go to move, you're going to travel a lot more distance than any of our other heroes, because you have that bound as your first movement. So that means that when you're fighting on a map like Battlefield of Eternity, where you have these AoEs that are showing up under your hero, you can get out of those really easily. And we really liked what that did for gameplay, and it felt different, and so we stuck with it.
So what role is she? Is she support? Is she assassin?
She is an assassin. We decided to add both Lunara and Greymane as assassins because we were looking at the rest of our roster. We were looking at how many games were being played on heroes that were ranged assassins, that were ranged auto attackers, and we felt like we could add a lot of variety into the team compositions that you're going up against if we added a couple more of those heroes.
What are some of the challenges especially since you put 4 heroes in the game, of balancing that? Because you don't just have to balance that one hero. You have to look at the team compositions to make sure they're balanced as well.
It's definitely a challenge to balance as many things that we do at one time. You've seen that we've kind of picked up the pace that we're doing hero releases just over the past 4 or 6 months, maybe. Ever since release, really, we've been on this pretty tight schedule of every 3 to 4 weeks releasing a new hero. And so we have a built-out schedule where each of these heroes go through maybe 3 months of design time. So there's a lot of time. And even once we design lock them, we continue to playtest them for balance reasons specifically. And so our balance team is focused on them all the way up until the time that they're releasing. So it gives us a lot of time to work.
For these three heroes specifically, or the four heroes specifically, did you pull from fan feedback or did you pull from just your internal design team?
So for these heroes in particular, I could say that the two ranged assassins, we knew that we wanted to go with two characters that were more based around ranged basic attacks. And so when we were looking at this huge list that we have back at the office that includes all the potential Blizzard characters that we think would be good fits, that list does include characters that we've seen on community sites that have been upvoted, characters that they want to see in the game. Things like Reddit polls. We've seen people upvoting certain heroes more there, so they're part of that list. But when we were choosing this, we knew that we were looking for two people that fit into this ranged assassin role, and so that was the specifics. As for Cho'Gall, he was a character that had actually been in Heroes of the Storm for a really long time, and he was taken out once the talent system went in. And so he's somebody that's been in the back of our mind for a while. And then I think once we were looking at those rules that we could break and we were thinking about this two-player thing, Cho'Gall was just a perfect fit.
Talk about the new map you guys are introducing, because it's not like any of the maps I've ever seen before. Fortresses actually get rebuilt eventually, and you cannot attack the base directly, the Nexus directly.
Yeah, so Towers of Doom, you're not trying to push down a lane to destroy the towns to get to the core and destroy the core. Instead, you're battling for control of the map against the other team for the entire game. This means you're going to be in lane a lot more than you are on some of the other maps, and you're controlling each one of those lanes is pretty important. Otherwise, they'll take map control and they'll get a lot more out of the map event. And the way the map event works is that there are these tributes that spawn on the map, and when you go and you control one of them, you'll fire off shots at the enemy's core based on how many towns you control. So map control is really important to helping you win the game.
It's kind of like a multiplier, so if you have four, you do 4 times more damage. So it's a matter of, just like you said, controlling the map at all given times rather than just pushing a lane like you normally do.
Yes, definitely. And this has done some interesting things for gameplay, just because a lot of time you'll see matches where one team will start to get a lot of map control. They'll have all of their bases still intact, and the other team will be down to just their core. And that can give the team a pretty big advantage on one side. But in this mode, the map control plays out pretty differently than those other maps, because you're still able to get out of your base, you're still able to fight, and not worry about your core being destroyed unless you allow them to get the tributes.
So, and then last but not least, when can people actually play these 4 heroes and the new map?
So they're all coming soon. I don't know if So Cho'Gall will be in the next release, which is coming up pretty soon, and he'll be the next one up. But I don't know the exact dates for all the rest of the content.